Hi people, welcome once again. John here, and in this video let's talk about domain mapping. But before we dive deep into what domain mapping is, I think it's crucially important for us to know what the internet is in general. So the internet is literally a network of computers, and when I talk about computers, it can be your phone, it can be web servers, it can be your normal computer, your normal laptop, iPad, or anything that has the ability to connect to the internet. All right. And of course, to connect to the internet, you need an internet connection. To connect to this network I just spoke about right now, you need an internet connection. And this is where your internet service providers, maybe international internet service providers like Starlinks, or maybe your local internet service provider, depending on the part of the world where you're watching this from, where you're coming from, there should be a local service provider, because if there is nothing like that, you won't be able to even watch this course online in the first place, all right? For instance, at my own end, I have MTN, which is a South African company. I have Airtel, which is an Indian company. I have Glow, which is of course a Nigerian company, and a whole lot of them, numerous of them I can choose from. All right. So the next thing right now is, how do we identify all these computers in the network? And that is where IP addresses comes in. So each computers on the network, to really know it, we really need to know the IP address of the computer. For instance, this my computer right now has an IP address. The one you're using right now, be it mobile phone that you're watching from, it has an IP address. Then the web servers you're reaching, for instance, I'm on Namecheap website right now. For me to access this website, this particular Namecheap website is hosted on a particular server, which is literally a computer like this, which is a data center like this, a computer like this. So this computer too has an IP address. All right. So any computer on the network must have an IP address that is unique to it. No two computers have the same IP address. And the next thing you might be asking, why do they even need to have an IP address in the first place? So I have just very few answers for that. Number one is to protect the internet, all right, because there is a saying that where there is no law, there is not going to be maybe breaking of rules. All right. For instance, in email, to even send email to you, if I want to send email, for instance, my website is jinside.com. If I want to send email, I'm sending from maybe johnkachi@jinside.com, or maybe mail@jinside.com, support@jinside.com, or something like that. So if there is no way to identify the server where my website is hosted, all right, I can decide to just clip the internet and get people's email and start spamming them. So the IP address of my server need to be known, of the particular server, maybe the computer where I'm accessing that website from, or where I'm perpetrating maybe an unsolicited email from. It has to be known. Maybe the server I'm using to send the email must be known. The IP address must be known, so that the internet service providers can be able to track the way you send emails, all right? So that if you're sending unsolicited emails, spam emails, they can be able to track the server and ban the server, so that it won't be a nuisance to other people on the internet. And again, another thing is fraud. So that anytime, in the case of fraud, the computer with that particular IP address can reach out to the company if there is a way of reaching out to the company. Though all these companies, they of course they claim to have a strict privacy policy, but in real sense they don't really respect our privacy, right? So maybe when FBI meet them for investigative purposes, they are going to release your IP address and all of that. So I think fraud, and also to protect the internet, is enough reason for the organization involved to assign IP addresses to different computers or different web servers. All right. For instance, let's make this clearer. Let me go to my system. Let me minimize this and go to my system. For instance, if I go to recent, I can see different videos. For instance, if I click this, you can see first forum dot webp. Okay, this is actually an image. I'm very sorry. This is actually an image. First forum dot webp. So where is this image located on my computer? So it is located under recent. So if you go to my computer has a name. This particular computer has a name. Then under recent, if you navigate to recent, you see this. Then this image is located under my computer. Then if you go to my computer under recent, you are going to be able to locate this image. Then if you go to maybe desktop, you will see this programming nuggets. So for you to locate these programming nuggets, you got to go to my computer. My computer has a name, John's PC. Then you have to go to John's PC desktop. Then before you be able to locate this programming nugget. Alright, the base part, which is literally the name of my computer, is going to be referred as the IP address or the domain name. But we are going to talk about the domain name later, where we will talk about domain mapping. Don't worry, you're going to understand everything. I'm just trying to make everything easy the little way I can. So the base part, which is the name of this computer, I can refer to it as the IP address of this computer. And for us to locate anything inside this computer now, or inside your physical servers like this, it has to be the IP address slash the directory you're looking for. For instance, let's make this clearer. This is desktop. If you come to my IP address, the IP address of this computer, which represents this computer, slash desktop, then slash programming nugget, you are going to be able to locate this particular folder, which are programming nuggets, alright, which I downloaded. So this is for a normal computer. Then what about web servers like this? For instance, I googled the servers, then I came to image. For instance, let me open this too. I think this is too much. For instance, let's just go with this. So all these, each of them are like physical servers in data centers, all right. So just like the way my computer, my normal computer has an IP address, just the illustration I did here, the IP address slash desktop slash the folder. Just like what I said, then these physical servers too, they have their own unique identifier on the network too, which is also the IP address. So when you host your website on this physical server, it's going to be your website slash, it's going to be the IP address slash anything you're putting there. So just check a situation whereby there are thousands and thousands of websites, there are millions or possibly billions of websites out there. All right. So when all these websites are being hosted on all these physical server with their IP address slash all the resources on the website. So the question now is, how do we access this website? By memorizing the domain name. For instance, if you go back to Voter, you see that, let me log in, I've been logged out. So here is Voter right now. If you look at the domain name that we're working with, the server that we're working with, if I go to server details, you are going to see this is my IP address 45.77.169.207, and this is the unique IP address of our server of a physical machine, just like this one, just like this particular one, all right. So you can bear me witness that it is very, very difficult for you to locate, not to locate right now, to remember this particular. For instance, for you to locate my website, you have to type this particular IP address, all right. You have to paste it, copy it, and paste it on your web browser. And for instance, if I have another directory, maybe PDF or maybe resource and download or free courses, is going to be located under this IP address slash ebook or slash free resource or slash any directory on my website, alright. So there need to be a solution to this, alright, because when we have thousands and thousands and billions of websites out there, the question is, how do we remember all these weird numbers? How do we remember them? All these weird numbers, how do we remember them, alright? So there is no way we can remember, even if we decide to memorize a few. So how do we know thousands and thousands of websites out there? And that is where what we call domain name system comes in. That is DNS, all right? And this deals with using a particular name to map a particular IP address. For instance, this computer right now, if you host your website on maybe this particular physical server, this physical server has an IP address. So DNS is a process of mapping that IP address to a domain name so that you'll be able to remember the domain name easier than the IP address. For instance, it's easier to remember jinside.com than remembering this particular weird number, or it's easier to remember site SEO scanner than this particular weird number. So the implication of this is that anytime you query this particular IP address on the internet, or you ask any online tool about this particular IP address, is going to result to this particular domain name. So this domain name now is now representing this IP address, but this is the IP address of the website at the background. All right, so to do this now, you need to go to your domain registrar account and copy that IP address and paste it inside your domain registrar advanced DNS zone using an A record. All right, I hope this is um understandable enough. For instance, let's come to, I'm using Namecheap. These are list of my domain names. I can come to this place right now and look for the particular domain. This is the site SEO scanner. Then I can come to advanced DNS, and remember, this process is um pretty the same for all domain registrars. All right, so don't be scared or anything. Then come back here, click on add record, then click on A record. This A record means that it points to our domain name. All right, it is pointing to itself. You can use A record to point to a particular domain, or you can use it to point to a subdomain. So let's this IP value, let's place the IP. Then under this host, just put at, then click on save changes. Then to the other things you can use A record to map. Maybe if you want to also map a subdomain, you can add A record. So instead of putting at, which is pointing to the root domain, because at is used to point to the root domain. All right, you can add mail here, mail. You can also add the IP address here if you want to create a subdomain. All right, maybe subdomain, maybe mail dot sitescoscanner.com. So instead of saying typing SEOscanner.com, you can type mail.SEOscanner.com. It's going to still result to this particular IP address, but that is not what we want to do. And again, this process too is not really required, but I just have to say talk about the concept. Maybe you can also decide to add a CNAME record, www, and this is used to point back to a specific version of your domain name. Then under the value section, you can type your domain name there. It's not really needed in this tutorial, but I'm just adding it so that we'll know. So the implication of this CNAME is so that anytime anybody type www.sitescoscanner.com, is going to result to sitescoscanner.com, and this is crucially important for SEO. For those of us that knows about SEO, this is crucially important so that Google and other search engines will be able to index only one version of your domain. All right, so we are going to delete this and only leave the first one, because that is the most important thing we need right now. All right, so this is how you can map domain name in any domain registrar. So let's quickly summarize what you just said now. So internet is literally network of different computers. It can be your phone, your laptop, anything at all. And to connect to this network of computers, you need an internet service provider or an internet connection. All right, and to identify all these computers in the network, all those computers networking, all right, we need the IP address. There is a need to assign IP address. So each computer has its own unique IP address, or an identifier known as an IP address. And the reason for this is so that we can be able to know each computer, so that we can be able to solve some issues like fraud, or maybe knowing where a particular traffic is coming from. Or there are a lot of, I just feel there is need for us to know each computers in the network. That's the reason for assigning all these IP addresses. So after assigning the IP address, the another issues of domain name came up. All right, because we are going to find this so difficult remembering the IP address of each of the computers that we are hosting our website with. So that is if we are talking about servers. I gave an example of normal system, where I talked about my normal system, how you can locate files from IP address, the sample I gave. Then when we talk about servers, there's need a server having also on the network, also being on the network and having its own IP address where you hosted your website. So instead of using the IP address to locate your website, which is far very very difficult to remember, so why not use, why there arises a need for us to use something more rememberable. This comes about the domain name system, which is a process of assigning a domain or a name to the IP address of the server so that we can be able to remember a lot of websites. So this is a simple explanation of what the domain name system is. All right. So without wasting much of our time, let's go into our next tutorial. Catch you.